Welcome to the HMO Property Show. By investors, for investors. Catch us weekly as we discuss all things cash flow positive property investing. Whether you're a seasoned investor, a new landlord, or just curious about property investing, this is the podcast for you. Sponsored by the Co-Living Collective, your trusted partner in creating vibrant and sustainable shared living experiences. Visit us at colivingcollective.com.au to learn more.
Welcome back to the HMO Property Show. I'm your host, Neil Gabe, as always, and today I've got somebody that is not related to real estate in the podcast booth.
Other than the fact that I have a house.
Yes, lives in a house. But today I brought in Mr. Adam Przytula from Adam for Life. Adam, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
And the reason that I brought him in is because for the clients that have already signed up to do business with the HMO Property Co, we give them an option of choosing 3 charities for us to donate to on their behalf. One is RUA, which helps people escape domestic violence.
Amazing organisation.
The other one is Plant 15 Trees, something totally different. And then Arm for Life sits in the middle.
Yeah.
And
most people are probably like, what's Arm for Life?
Arm for Life, but a lot of
is it an army service? That's the question I get all the time. I'm like, no.
So I thought I would bring in the man himself to tell us what Arm for Life is, what it does out there in the real world, and the people it helps, and man, let's do it.
Okay, sure.
It's a incredible organisation. We met, 3 years ago?
I was talking to someone about you yesterday, like the fact that you first came on a camp, and that's now why we're so connected, because you saw 2 camps back to back.
Yes.
And then you saw what we do on the ground, and then you're like...
I came to a charity event first.
That's right, you did, yeah. The quiz night.
Yes.
The first quiz night that we did.
Business partner, I believe, his wife, Jen.
Yes, Jen and I went to school with, yes.
Right.
Yeah. We weren't friends at all.
And then Jen said, do you want to come along to this event tonight? And I was like, yeah, I'll come along.
Yep.
Seeing you in Taylor.
She asked you on the same day?
Maybe. We might have had a few days.
Come on, Jen.
But we came along to that event last night, found out more about Arm for Life.
Yep.
We donated some money on the night.
Yep.
And then you emailed me a few days after to tell me about the impact that donation had made, which, not a lot of charities do that. Specifically tell you what that donation made.
Yep.
And that's when I wanted to reach out and connect with you more, mate. And since then, we've become good friends.
We have.
Like you say, I've been on 2 of the camps. 2 or 3? 2.
Maybe 2?
2 camps.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the camps soon.
Yeah.
Very privileged to be asked to become a board member for Arm for Life as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we try our best to help out anywhere we can with sponsoring events and stuff like that, mate. So, firstly, thank you for creating Arm for Life.
Thank you.
It's incredible what it does. For the people that are listening, give us a high level run through what it is.
So Arm for Life exists because of my experience in school. I always kind of give the background as well. Like essentially, we are a organisation. We're on the cusp of become a health promotion charity. So, which I think is the specific designation. We run presentations, programs, and camps that are all designed around building resilience, bettering off mental health, well-being, relationships. Yeah. There's so much that we do, and it started because I struggled in school. Like I was champion boy in primary school, so I loved primary school, year 1 to 4. I was the fastest kid. Everyone likes the fast kid. You've heard this like 17 times, so apologies.
I could probably tell this.
You probably could. But home wasn't great, and I remember there was a lot of emotional abuse and absent parenting, and so I really struggled at home and then found my identity in the running, but then I lost it in year 4, and I ended up with eczema so bad that I was given cortisone tablets or injections, and I ended up in the PAT program in year 5 and 6, finding my identity in something else. But then in year 7, my own friends turned on me, and I had a bullying experience that basically a game of basketball turned to a game of keepy off, and fists were thrown, and they bullied me for 2 weeks. It all meant that I didn't trust anyone. I didn't find friends in the middle of year 9. So high school started in year 8. Going to high school, didn't trust anyone, didn't find friends in the middle of year 9. So I was a year and a half of no friends. And my parents divorced in the middle of year 8 as well. So everything fell apart at the same time. The anxiety and depression that I experienced because of the bullying in particular, home, being a broken home was its own thing, and that created other issues as well. But it was the bullying that took me to the point in the middle of year 10 of having a plan in place to take my own life. I couldn't function. the anxiety and depression, and I didn't know what it was either. Like, the good thing is, I speak to, year 3 to year 12 students, plus adults. There's so many things that we're doing outside of schools. Like, we're in the end of a 6-month program with Western Power that they loved it so much, the guy running it brought someone in from head office who saw one presentation and went, man, can you do this at head office as well? Like, it's beginning to do this outside of schools and outside of WA as well. Sunday I fly to New South Wales to run 6 days of programs and presentations in another state as well. So it's doing this outside of WA and outside of schools as well, because I realised that resilience is kind of the core of what we do, resilience and self-esteem. And I realize it's because we're adults doesn't mean we are automatically resilient. It takes time to build the skill. And if we don't have it automatically, and I had no resilience growing up. Every time I got hit by a problem, I would completely fall apart. I was an absolute mess. And that led me to having a plan in place to take my life in the middle of year 10. And I don't say that lightly. I don't really speak about that with groups 13 years and under. But I couldn't live anymore. Like, I was so in pain and so struggling, and the mental health issues were so extreme, and not a single adult ever asked if I was okay. And I spent so much of my childhood struggling, and it didn't have to be that way. And I got out of school, I almost failed year 12 as well, joined a team going into schools because I didn't have good enough grades to get to a single university course. And partway through the year, I had a turning point and realised I was desperately in need of help, and no one was there to give it. And that's where the seed was planted. You needed help the entire 5 years of high school. I'm really struggling to speak at the moment. Blah, blah, blah. I think I'm thirsty. I needed help the entire 5 years of high school. No one was there to give it, and no one ever asked if I was okay either. And that's kind of where the seed was planted. You needed help, and you needed to be that guy. And I didn't know what that meant or where that would go. The long story short is that I finished my teaching degree, became a chaplain in a school, started speaking 25 years ago because I asked to come back after volunteer for 2 years, and that's where the seed was planted, that I needed help and no one was there to give it. So, so it's been developing, over 25 years, and it's something that you couldn't pay me to do anything else because I care too much about what I do.
Yeah, I see the impact that it has. Not only in the schools but on the camps firsthand. What I've seen on the camps. I mean, when you first invited me over, like I
put the call out. I was like, help me, and then you came along.
Yeah, I was like, I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
What I noticed when I went to that first camp was I didn't realize how many children were like down, and I'm talking deep down, like
absolutely
heads hung. Addicted to the mobile phones. There's that one kid that was just addicted to sugar.
Yeah, you still remember him? Yeah, my gosh, that stood out to me too.
Me out, because I'd never seen it before. But what I've seen is a group of kids, teenagers, get onto a bus that wouldn't even talk to each other.
Yeah.
And then 2 or 3 days later, when we took the iPads off them and changed the diet and got them doing activities, I've seen a group of kids being kids again and enjoying themselves. And then because I've obviously got this relationship with you, you told me about the messages you were getting after that camp and the impact that one camp had on probably 90% of the children there, right? Incredible. People telling you that their lives had changed. People are telling you that they also had plans to take their lives and didn't.
The first one you came on was the summer camp, right? And then you came on the winter camp.
Yeah.
Because it was that second winter camp that we had one of our team members email me 3 days afterwards and say, you don't know this, but as a 17-year-old, I had a plan to take my own life prior to coming on camp. And the fact that, and she's now leading on our camps, the fact that in 3 days I've got hope and I've got purpose. She's now got a tattoo of resilience on her arm. Like, she's, one of our success stories. But every single camp, we have parents saying, I've got my son back, I've got my daughter back, thank you so much.
Yeah. In 3 or 4 days?
Yeah.
Incredible, isn't
it?
But
it's everything we do as an organisation is purposeful. I play a game at the start of our presentations, but it's purposeful. I give chocolate out to draw people in so that there's great questions at the end. Because the young people, I've been doing it for 25 years. You don't know this. We went to a school on Monday. People don't know when this is dropping, so they don't know what the school is. The worst school I've ever been into. 25 years of going into schools, 12 years of running Arm for Life.
In Western Australia?
In Western Australia. As in the hardest presentation I've run.
Right, okay.
There were kids still reporting back to the staff that they loved it. And so we spent so much time developing a way to engage to such a high degree that no matter what, like we do paintballing in our winter camps because it's cool, but I also get to shoot kids with paintballs that I've been bantering with for 2 or 3 days that I can't crack at the start. Like everything we do is purposeful, and you got to see that purpose, which I love because I know how much of a support you are for us.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I was addicted the first time I seen it, and I was addicted after the first email, but I think we donated $1,000. I can't remember, something around there.
Yeah.
And it got you into a school that you couldn't get access to because there was no funding to get access to. But then once you had the money to go, you give us the feedback on the feedback that you were getting from the students and the teachers, which is hooked me straight away. And I was like, wow, this is interesting.
Yeah.
Why do you think the students have so much connection with you, and why do you think you get so much good feedback?
I've been speaking for 25 years, right? So I like the fact that students think that I'm about 30 or 35. I'm happy with that.
You're down with the kids, mate. You're pretty trendy, aren't you?
I try. Being a 45-year-old, I started speaking at 20. And I figured out when I started Arm for Life that the most powerful tool that I had was authenticity. If I could be real and I could be honest, and so I don't bring anyone into the organization that isn't authentic. They have to have a story of some kind. Even if it was I got bullied for a period and it did this, I realized that was what people were connecting to for me. The fact that I went through something horrendous, and there was even the psych brought out that I'm seeing at the moment, brought out to me, like, I love horror movies and the ones that you don't know who's going to survive, and I hate the spiritual stuff, but anything that is like survival, slasher movie, or who's going to survive, how they're going to survive. He's like, you love that because you survived your childhood and legitimately survived in a real sense. And I'm like, that makes a whole lot of sense. That's why I like who's going to survive and when, etc. But the fact that I share that means that it gives people permission to struggle themselves. But then also that I'm not the only one, B, I can get out of it. I've had so many kids come to me and say, I remember word for word, it came up to me saying, this is 10 years ago, I went through exactly what you went through, and the fact that you got through it gives me hope. I hear stuff like this all the time.
Give me goosebumps.
Yeah, last year I had a kid come to me and say, I was talking about vaping for crying out loud. And he stayed afterwards, year 12 student. I wasn't talking to year 12s. He was there doing sound. And he stood back afterwards, waited for the 30 or 40 kids around me to talk to me and ask me questions, etc. and go, you came to my school 3.5 years ago and you talked about resilience. And this year I was a volunteer. I'm a volunteer firey. We lost 2 firefighters to taking their own lives. And the only reason I didn't is because your presentation 3.5 years ago. And I got goosebumps in that moment. And like, this is the impact we're having on a daily basis now. It's taken time to get to the point where everything we do, we cut anything that isn't good, anything that doesn't make a difference, we cut it because that's the whole purpose. And even that means that we have 25 presentations and 9 programs and 3 camps, and everything we do makes a massive difference. We just don't have the funds to do it, as you know. That's why we need to be our own functioning not-for-profit in WA so we can get access to all the grants.
Which is happening, right? Which is happening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're still, like this week, this is the only day, this is the first day in about 8 weeks that I haven't been in a school. I've had meetings, etc., etc. Like this week has been insane. Because even though schools have to pay us for the work that we do, it's making a difference.
Yeah, and it's pretty hard getting this podcast locked in.
Yeah,
we've changed the date like 3 or 4 times.
I'm so
times
sorry.
blew out.
I feel so bad.
No, I'm not saying that in a bad way.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm saying that that's how much demand's out there for you to come to these places and talk about your experience. And
Sunday I'm flying to New South Wales because I've been an RUOK ambassador for 3 years, and last year in November I had a school booked in Adelaide. And they bailed 2 weeks out. I'm like, I've got a whole week. When I reached out to, there's about 7 or 8 ambassadors at some point last year went, we'd love to get involved. I reached out to all of them. One of them went, I'm from a town in Coonabarabran that would love to have you over. I went over to some random town in Coonabarabran in New South Wales. It's in the middle of nowhere. I did like 4 schools, did like 1 session in 4 schools. I'm now flying over on Sunday to do like 4 full days and a parent session because the schools loved it so much. Like everywhere we go, the response is so powerful because there's a need. And like, I don't know what it's like in every other state, but the market's flooded here in WA and not everyone's good at what they do. Unfortunately, some people it's about ego, some people it's about what makes them look good. And, I'm not perfect, but everything we do has to be effective. Otherwise, there's no point in doing it.
Let's talk about resilience then.
Yep.
Because you also got the book, The Road to Resilience, and it's the core of everything, right? That you talk about. And there's other bits that we'll talk about on there. But what is resilience, and how do you articulate what resilience is and how to become resilient to children and companies like Western Power?
Yep. So, a really close friend of mine who passed away last year, unfortunately, she was the one that said to me that you could take all 25 of your presentations, put them out on a table and draw a mind map, and they're all interconnected. And that's when I said, but resilience and self-esteem sit at the center. Everything flows from that. My self-esteem, how I feel about myself, whether I have a healthy or an unhealthy self-esteem, how I think about myself, everything flows from that. That impacts our resilience, and those two impact everything else. If I lack resilience, it impacts my ability to deal with problems, the relationships I choose, the friendships I choose to hang around. It impacts everything, the decisions that I make. If I have a really low self-esteem and I make really poor choices to make myself feel better. And so talking to young people about this, like I dip into what the definitions are, like the word recovery is really key, but ultimately that definition of being able to bounce back from problems works. Because when you combine that with self-esteem, if I have a low self-esteem and I am bruised in a sense, right? Meaning that I'm hurt, I'm in pain, and we get hit by a problem, I can't bounce back. The story that I tell all the time is the fact that at 13 years ago I had a motorbike. Before my 12-year-old was born, I had to deal with my ex. If I had an accident, I'd never get to ride again. I'm like, I will take that deal because I'm never going to have an accident. I had a plan, right? I was going to ride a motorbike for the rest of my life. I knew what I was going to get. I had a picture of me riding a bike when I was 60, and it took 6 months and I got hit by a truck. Driving down the main street, my suburb, cement truck pulled out in front of me, and I hit the brake to turn to try and go around. My skid bar was this long. Sorry for those listening in. I had a second to react. So I turned into a skid, and my bike hit the truck, and my chest hit the door, but my foot was crushed in between the bike and the truck. I had a second to react. That foot being crushed, the only protective gear I wasn't wearing was a boot. I had my cool blue shoes. I like my cool shoes. And so my chest hit the door, and I had the deep, dark purple, brown, yellow bruise, and it lasted about 3 weeks. But my foot was crushed in between the bike and the truck. So, smash fall, I look up, he's driving away, he had no idea we collided. And I start crawling forwards to get his attention, then the pain hit my foot. And we rolled onto my back, started screaming for 20 minutes there until the ambulance got there. Then I got the drugs up the nose, and then, the pain was gone. But I couldn't even stand up. And the pain that I was in stopped me from able to bounce back. And so anyone who's in pain, whether there's stuff going on at home, relationships breaking down, being bullied at school for young people, they're already in pain, and we get hit by a problem. It's like getting poked in a bruise. You can't bounce back. And so that's why the two are so interconnected. And if I'm not in a good place and I get hit by a problem, so a key part of resilience is working on myself and being in the best place that I can be. So we talk about a preparation stage and a rebounding stage. In the preparation stage, we talk about healthy relationships, self-awareness, and positive thinking. And all three of those are like an extra layer of cushioning. When you get hit by a problem, each of those three cushions you have in place, it absorbs the impact and it doesn't hurt as much, even if you're bruised. So me wearing my cool blue shoes, my foot was crushed in between the bike and the truck. The pain was excruciating. Had I been wearing the boot, it would hurt, like my chest did, but it wouldn't have been crushed. So we need these three things in place. There are experts around the world that talk about this. They go into cities that talk about building resilient cities, and they talk about a preparation stage and a rebounding stage. And in the rebounding stage, you get hit by a problem. How do you deal with the problem? Are you reactive or responsive? And that's kind of core in terms of building resilience. If I have a low self-esteem and I'm emotionally driven, I'll tend to react. I'll react to everything that happens to me. I'll react to the fight that I have with my partner. I'll react to the problem that happens in my business or my work. Being reactive means we can never be resilient. It means we're controlled by the emotions that we feel, and our emotions are incredibly valid, but we can't make decisions based on them. And if we're making decisions based on them, it means that we are will never be resilient. You can't be resilient if you are emotionally driven in terms of making decisions out of emotions, because all our emotions are valid. That's what our managing emotions presentation is about. Every emotion is valid. Sadness, anger, anxiety, they all have a place. But we're never meant to make decisions based on that emotion and how I feel in that given moment. And if we do, we can't be resilient because it derails us immediately and we can't deal with the problem in a healthy way. Whereas someone who can respond, they can stay calm, they can problem solve and use the reasoning part of their brain. So they play the movie forward and go, what happens if I do this? What are the consequences? And then they can choose what's right. They don't make the decision based on emotion. That's kind of the core of what we talk about.
Yeah.
That was a really long-winded answer, sorry.
No. So what, working in all these schools and seeing all these students in, why are we seeing a lack of resilience in younger people, and why are we seeing so much low self-esteem? Is there a common thread? Yes,
the two strongest, this is what research says, the two strongest contributing factors to lack of resilience, because this generation coming through are the least resilient generation that's ever existed in the history of time.
Why is that?
Parenting styles and social media. Screens and social media. So parenting styles, number one, we got a whole presentation on this, right, when we talk to parents. The last component of that is talking about the parenting styles, and the only one that develops resilient children is a balanced parenting where there's discipline and love. If we are helicopter parents, or as I mentioned on Monday night to the school that I was speaking at with parents, the bulldozer parent where they go in first and they clear everything out of the way, like it's even worse than a helicopter parent. The dictatorship parent where it's all what I say and what I do, and you do what I say and you don't answer back. The free range parenting where they can do anything whenever they want, whenever they want. There's a difference between that and like having some boundaries of some type, because every child needs boundaries. Or even the BFF parenting, as I call it, the best friends forever parenting, where there's a split home and the parent is almost using the child as a supplement for a parent. It's happening all the time currently. So they have to grow up too quickly. So all these, and the absent parenting is the worst. All the research points to the fact that all those are bad, but absent parenting is the worst because the child internalizes everything and goes, I'm not worth anything. And I'm not even worth a parent giving me time.
This is probably causing lack of resilience and low self-esteem, right?
So there's that, and then you've got screens. The first generation grew up with screens in their hand. And so there's a guy, I can't remember his Dr. Nicholas Kardassis in New York, has written a book called Glow Kids and talks about how the child brain isn't ready for interactive screens until 12. We've all grown up with screens in our hand. But the phone and the tablet and the iPad and the laptop and even gaming, it's all interactive. So if they are doing that before 12, we are disadvantaging brains.
It's impossible not to give them that, though, isn't
absolutely,
it?
It is. So you have to balance it and you have to try and mitigate it. And so, okay, well, with our 3.5-year-old, he gets max half an hour to an hour a day. That's it. Again, that's mostly TV. Okay? He doesn't, my 12-year-old didn't know how to unlock a phone to 11. Didn't give him one.
Good.
Right? No phone, no tablet, because I know what happens to their brains. So you combine all of that, because this is a generation who grew up with screens in their hand. Why do you think that ADHD and ADD is more prevalent now than ever before? It is a thing, and some kids need medication. But have we looked at screens first? Have we looked at like what they're eating first? I don't mean to offend anyone at all. My 12-year-old was diagnosed with ADHD, and we tried everything. Then we put on medication, and it's helped. So I'm not saying the medication isn't, but we have to look at everything first. Look at all the holistic. We've got a GP on our basketball team. And even as a doctor, they were trained that the last port of call is medication. That's what doctors are trained. So why don't we do it? Because it's not an easy fix.
Nah.
So the phone is an easy fix, the tablet is an easy fix, the iPad is an easy fix, medication is an easy fix. We've become a society that looks at easy fixes first, then look at everything else after when the easy fix creates more problems. If we would look at everything else first, I'm going on a massive rant here, I apologize.
We could go down a rabbit hole.
We absolutely could. But it all connects to resilience, because I'm being called into schools to do emergency resilience sessions for year 12s that got 2% less than what they wanted on their mocks, because they've never been able to fail, right? They've never been allowed to fail. And as soon as they fail, their world falls apart.
And then they come out of school into the real world where life is a succession of failures. That's what success is, right?
The job they get is exactly what they want, and they start to fail, and they leave and they bail, and they don't put their all in immediately. Like, we're seeing that happen in the workplace. Yeah, it's all interconnected.
So without this turning into a parenting podcast, we're supposed to give them a balance of love and discipline, letting them make their own mistakes, putting them discipline and that boundaries around them, but letting them know that they are loved.
And the earlier you start, the better. The later you start, the harder it is. I have so many parents of teenagers go, I don't know what to do. They freak out and they're screaming when I take their devices away. And a part of me goes, you waited too long. You can still make an impact, but the earlier we start, the better, because they have to we have to be a parent before a friend. Too many parents want to be friends. Too many parents want to be liked by their children, but we have to be a parent first. Yeah. Like, I have a running joke in my house: who's the boss? And if they if they joke and they say they are, then I take something away. Like, it might be just a small treat, but I take it away and go, no, I'm the boss. And it's a running joke, and it's not a power play. It's just redefining the roles in the home so they know, and they will always know, that I'm the boss. I am a friend, and I have an incredible relationship, especially with my 12-year-old. We will probably be friends for the rest of our lives because I have developed an incredible relationship with him, but he knows I'm the boss. And once he's 18 or 19 or 20, that role will shift, and I'm aware of that. We will become more friends, then the dynamic will change, but right now I have to be that. Because that's what he needs.
Yeah, wicked.
Yeah.
Wicked. So back to the schools and the Arm for Life mission. What is the mission? Where are we taking this? How many people have we spoke to? How much impact have we had so far?
So we have spoken to, it's been 12 years now. We've been in over 500 schools. We are busier than we've ever been before. We have more team on than ever before. We've spoken to over 1 million students in the 12 years. The impact has been ridiculous.
Let's just let that sink in. 1 million students you've stood in front of.
Because it's always year groups. Always. 95% of the time it's year groups, And when I do crazy weeks where I'm in 10 schools a week, and some of the year groups at the moment have 500 students per year group, it ends up adding up. And we're still now 4 to 10 schools a week because there are schools that are booking $10,000 or $20,000 worth of presentations and programs over the course of the year because we've earned their trust. Because there's a lot of guys out there that, talk a big game, but they don't follow through with something that actually makes a difference. So for us, it's hard. It's this weird dynamic of we're busier than we've ever been before, but there's still no money in the bank.
Well, there's only one Adam, right?
There's only one me.
So we need to cut you up into little pieces. And
Wouldn't that be nice?
Little Adam minions.
Yeah.
Around.
I love Adam minions. Not that I'm trying to replicate myself, but just people that can do the same thing. What I've realized is that I have to be the CEO and I have to be the guy on the ground, and that's it. Yeah. I can't do anything else in between. So we need money to pay people to do everything else in between. That's the next goal, is where we're going, so that I can pay everyone else to do everything else, and I can still oversee everything, but my greatest skill set will always remain being on the ground in schools
100%.
Until I'm too old.
That's your genius, all right?
That's probably 15, 20 years away, and when that time comes, I will humbly accept it, and I will change the dynamic of the actual organisation. But until we get there, that's still my greatest skill set, and I know that's where I need to be. So we need to be able to bring more people in and pay people what they are worth to be able to do all that stuff in between.
And as this has grown, like we said earlier, you've set up the charitable arm, or close to it being a charitable arm, so people can donate, we can get access to grants.
Well, the good thing is currently we have a auspice arrangement with a group in Queensland, which means we can take donations, we can still run charity events, we can still raise funds. It's just that once we get the charity status here, we can get grants from Lotteries West, which is
game changer.
50, 100, 200, let's say $1 million in a grant to do what we need to do, or set up an Arm for Life centre. That's all coming. Yeah. But we still have the auspice arrangement now, which means we can still we can still do fundraisers now.
Yeah. And obviously, school is only its terms of school, right? So there's gaps in between.
Yes.
What are we doing in the gaps in between school terms?
The biggest gap is literally every year. I feel like I get to the end of term 4 and I'm like, yeah, and we're good and we got money in the bank, and then we have one camp over the summer holidays for 6 weeks and we get to start a term 1 and there's no money left in the bank. I can't wait for the year where we start term 1 and there's money in the bank. It will be such a nice feeling because it's just so money in, money out, and it has been for 12 years. And I got to May last year and I couldn't pay myself for 2 weeks, but because I wanted to continue to pay the team, I've been doing it for so long. I just want to be able to get to the place where that's not a problem anymore, where there is enough money there. We can just pay everyone for what they're doing. We can continue to grow in the way that we're growing exponentially. So those holidays, the January holidays, we have the summer camp. The July holidays, we have a resilience and mental health camp, which is the longest running camp, and that's the one, the one coming up that we literally, I think last year we had 25 at junior camp and 35 or 40 in the senior camp. So it's bigger numbers than we've ever had before. And then last year we did a leadership camp in September that was just a day camp. We didn't stay over. And even that we had 35 sign-ups. So the camps are running and they're working. Yeah. That's what we do in the breaks. April next year we'll do another camp. I don't want to touch it. If I can bring someone in to run it, then we'll have another camp in April because I ain't touching it. I'm doing too much as it is.
So let's talk about the camps. What are they? We take kids out of school, like
Yeah.
we mentioned earlier, picked up in a bus, driven to a location.
Yep.
And then they are
3 days. We have
the kids again.
we have a presentation in the morning. At night time we have activities in every single camp. The summer camp is a little bit different. We're at the beach every day. We have some of our team come down. So this summer camp this year, I couldn't be there because my baby was born the day before. Pretty good reason. But we had like a hip hop artist come down. We had a hip hop dancer come down. We had multiple of the team come down to run activities and do stuff down there. The resilience and mental health camp, we go out to a place where we don't need to take our team because they have paintballing and archery tag, an amazing race.
That's awesome.
You didn't get to do we're doing the go-karting this year. You didn't get to do it.
Yeah,
So it's like an outdoor dirt go-karting track. They put, because in winter it's wet as well. It's the best go-karting I've ever done. So that's being reintroduced this year. Because we split the age brackets.
Same venue?
Yes, same venue.
Yeah.
So it's because it's such a large, expansive space. We haven't been everywhere. You at least didn't go everywhere. So there's pockets of the space where, because it takes like 10 minutes to go up the hill, etc., to do the paintballing, because they've got this big space. So yeah, that's being reintroduced this year because we had the split of the age bracket. So we couldn't do the go-karting because we had young, 12, 13-year-olds. So now it's like a 14 and 17-year-old camp. We can do the paintball and the archery tag for those. I mean, it's the paintball and go-karting for those guys. So that's what happens in the holidays. We always are in a place where we need volunteers to come on board as well to lead on the camps. But we've had guys like you and Brendan come down who are camp dads and camp mums. So we've got like that difference in maturity and
It's awesome to come
Yeah.
in the age bracket that I'm in, just to see what you do and how you interact with the kids there as well, but also how much respect they give you.
Yeah.
It's
We work hard at the start because I say to them, this has to be a safe place.
Yeah.
And that is like literally the number one. I want them to walk away changed, but I want it to be safe. Like I have had to, there's one kid in the 10 years and 15 camps where I've had to say, I'm sorry you can't come back because you jeopardized the safety of every camper that was on this camp. And he's the only guy I've had to say you can't come back. And I hate that because I want to give everyone a second and third chance. I want to help them. But nothing is more important than the safety of everyone else on that camp. And that's why we even split the age brackets to keep it safe.
Yeah.
So we didn't have too many kids on the camps. So it's a beautiful dynamic. Like I really miss the, hey, look, there was a baby and there was, birth giving, etc. But even that, I still miss the camp because it's just so ingrained in me. I started them, 10 years ago in 15 camps. It was the only camp I've never been on. So there's another camp coming in July, which I'm looking forward to.
So tell us about how did people find out about the camps? If people in Western Australia because we've got kids that come from north, south.
We do, all
east,
over.
west,
flying in from Kalgoorlie and Karratha. And so we have people coming from all over. So you can sign up. There's a humanities page. If you just look up Armed for Life and look up Resilience and Mental Health Camp, it's on the website. So there's some details there as well. And all the sign-ups are online now, so it's really easy to do. You just literally log in or actually go onto the humanities page, put in all the details, and it does the rest for you. So,
and what's the price on this? So if people are thinking about it,
Junior high is 10 to 13, well, essentially 10 to 13-year-olds. It's mostly 10 to 12-year-olds, and that's $550 for 3 days. That's bus out there, all the activities. We have a chef on camp who does the food because I'm a foodie, so we can't have dodgy camp on food. The food is gluten-free, sugar-free, dairy-free, so people have allergies. That's not a problem. There's some vegan options as well. And then the 14 to 17-year-old camp is 600 plus GST. So that's because we're the paintball and the archery tag. I mean, it's like paintball and go-karting. For 10 years, I've said paintball and archery tag, so my brain automatically goes to that. The archery tag we say for the junior high, and then the senior high gets the paintballing and the go-karting.
Yeah, so. Nice. So if we've, in the past where I reached out to you and said, is there any kids that want to go but the parents can't afford it?
Absolutely.
We've sponsored kids to go as well. Is if people do want to sponsor the kids, how can they do that?
100%.
Just contact you?
Almost every single week I've got kids that come up and then go to grab a flyer and look at the price and give it back. Almost every single day. That roughest school I've ever been in, and Monday, which is set the benchmark for me, there were so many kids that went to look at the flyer and just gave it back. And we're like, no, take it. We will get some funding options, also sponsorship options, because we don't want that to be the barrier to kids coming on camp. So there's always going to be kids that's the thing about getting the charity status and just having the money there. We can create our own sponsorship process. And so then we're going to literally just be full in schools and on the camps when that day comes. But right now it's if the money comes in, we can sponsor kids.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. Could be a few more sponsorships coming from Troy and I as well.
Right.
So we always love to help, mate. But only because I've seen firsthand how much these kids can change.
Yep.
And it like I said earlier, it's down to taking the phones off them, taking them out of the normal environment, and feeding them properly.
Well, it wasn't until about 5 years ago that I saw that it was a Social Dilemma documentary that I saw 4 days before camp. When I didn't talk about screen addiction. And so I shopped it in the first morning and then put the bucket out and said, you want 500 points to your team, put the phone in the bucket. And so 90% of the kids on that camp put their phones in the bucket. And I think it makes a massive difference because we see a better change from the Resilience to Mental Health camp than we do from the Healthy Relationships camp. I just feel I probably still need to just do it anyway and just put it out. It's just because we don't run the presentation on the Healthy Relationships camp because I'll try and differentiate the two camps so we get a greater engagement with putting their phones in. So I think it makes a massive difference.
Yeah. So you're now transitioning away from the schools. Well, not transitioning away. There's another feather in the cap.
Yeah, 100%.
We're moving more into the commercial businesses sort of space. Tell us about some of the things you're doing there, and also if somebody is in a business that thinks, this might be a good option for us to get Adam in. I've actually had Adam come into one of our team events and run a session on resilience as well. So again, if anybody is in a business, in a company, and wants to bring Adam in to have a chat, by all means reach out and get him booked in.
We've done it a few times. It was about probably 3 years ago that I was asked to speak for a wellness symposium down in Bustleton for parents. And I did 25 minutes on building resilience in kids. And then every single parent came up to me and said, I got something for my kids, but I need to hear that. And that's where the penny dropped, that this is for everyone. It's not just for young people. And so we've done a few bits and pieces with you guys, with like Mercy Care, with even, and they're like, the extreme where they're caring with kids that have like really high needs. And then I did a Are You OK presentation for Western Power, and the hub that I spoke at was like, can you come back and do some like Harm for Life stuff? It took 9 months because he tried to get it through head office and it couldn't get any traction. And so then just booked a 6-month program to the point where it's a really beautiful thing to see because I've seen how effective it is. Where we've got one left, all we do is do like a presentation and an activity back to back. So health and wellbeing and breath work, self-esteem and a nutrition demo, a nutrition session with a cooking demo, resilience with a group training session. So there's always something practical after the presentation. They love it. There's about 40 or 50 in the group. They love it so much that someone left and was called into Ed office to work there. And she literally made the trek to come back to the depot for the next presentation because she didn't want to miss it. Yeah. And the guy who was running it brought someone from head office and they went, this is amazing. Can you do it for head office? Because it was so well received and she loved it so much. And so it's been beautiful to see that it works just as well with adults as it does with young people, because I wasn't sure, to be honest. Schools are my world.
Yeah.
I've been doing schools for 25 years, man. And to be honest, until about a year or two ago, adults would freak me out.
I remember when you said that.
I mean, sit down and be like, I'd be in cold sweats beforehand going to speak to adults because it's just not my world. Parents in particular are the ones where I'm like, it's probably my favorite group to speak to because they want to be there. In the corporate space, I'm still going, I hope this is going to work. I mean, now I know it does work, especially having this 6-month program with Western Power. It's been incredibly well received to the point where they are loving it, and they're telling me they're loving it every time I come in. So, it's a bit of a no-brainer now. So it's honestly, it's the same with schools. All schools talk to every other school. So that's why we're so busy in schools now. I've known that the corporate space will be a case of it just has to be the right time and the right people talking about it because I know it works, but it's hard to get in there. So the right time will come.
So with the parents, do you think the parents get so much from it because the subjects you talk about are not so much taboo, but do you just think that they're not educated in these things because we don't talk about our emotions, or we've never spoken about these things?
Parenting doesn't come with a handbook.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm still figuring stuff out. We have our 3-month-old at home, so figuring that out as we go. My 12-year-old was like a perfect child, and my 3.5-year-old's a weapon. So I've been unpacking how do I manage each of them, etc. And I use my 12-year-old as a guinea pig. So everything I put into him, I just talk about in the parent sessions. And so because they don't come with a handbook. Every child is different and individual. Like I've had questions like, I don't get much time with my kids, so how do I ensure they're loved, learn their love language, impart into them specifically or purposefully when you're with them so they know that they're loved. There are things you can do. Ultimately, it comes down to that when we go back to that healthy parenting style of balance of discipline and love. That you have to follow through discipline, you have to have boundaries, but they have to know they're loved. They have to. I believed I was worthless for 18 years of my life. And I had a turning point when I was 18. And then I was like, I've got value. That was the key turning point for me. I didn't believe it. And we have to spend so much time instilling that into our young people, that they are valuable, that they are loved. Because maybe it's a protective measure, but they err towards the negative side, and we all do. We all err towards the negative component of our thinking. We have to purposefully choose the positive thoughts and then purposefully instill that into our young people so they believe it.
Well, let's finish the podcast on 3 tips then. And this, it is turning into a bit of a parenting podcast.
Yeah, that's true.
Look, again, I wanted to bring you in so that people got a little bit of exposure about what they are, well, especially the clients that are working with them, what they've actually donated money to and the impact that it's having. But revolving around kids and making sure that they feel loved, what are 3 things or 3 questions that we can ask our kids to get a response out of them? Because most people will say, have you had a good day, son, daughter? And
no.
No.
One-word answers. I've banned one-word answers with my child, by the way. It's not allowed. And so he knows that now. So I mean, do you want 3 tips overall, or do you want 3 tips about engaging with young people? Because they're different questions.
Both. 3 tips and then 3 engagements.
Don't want much, do you? So the 3 tips that I go to no matter what is food, exercise, and sleep. Like it covers everything. Like having a 3-month-old at home, sleep deprivation is ridiculous. And the business being where it is and having to work till 12, 1 o'clock every night for the last 3 years, I know I'm in sleep deprivation. So I highly prioritize food and exercise. Gym 3 days a week is a non-negotiable. Pilates once a week is a non-negotiable because I have scoliosis as well. So prioritizing these things, like I give up work to do them because I know that I will burn out if I don't. But then food, like I am 80% as healthy as I can. I've been fasting all day because I know my digestive system needs the break. And so I do things like that to prioritize those 2 things because I know sleep isn't there. Eventually I'm working towards getting more sleep, right? So I've got all 3 in place.
I think that them 3 things are the foundation for success as well, right?
100%.
Get them 3 things nailed, whether you're a kid or whether you're an adult.
So many
and
things
your day will be a lot easier, right?
Whatever you're focusing on. For parenting, it's engagement. So I would say discipline, love, and engagement. And so the discipline component, having those boundaries in place, whatever they look like, the love component of they are loved no matter what. I can be disappointed, I can be frustrated, I can be whatever it is, but if I'm communicating love or whatever that love, because it has to meet their love language, not mine. If I'm communicating through love that meets their love language, then their love tank's filled up and so they feel loved. But then engagement, find a way to engage with those kids, whatever that is. If you hate gaming and they're a gamer, guess what?
Game with them.
You game with them, whatever it is. I've got incredible engagement with my boys because of that, you know, and I've brought them on a journey with, you know, neither of them are gamers. I am a gamer. And so they sit and watch me play Fortnite and they freaking love it. Like, I'm talking for half an hour once a week. It's not like a regular thing. But I find whatever works for them. My 12-year-old, every single holidays, we have a day where we do weeding and then we get a burger and then we go to the movies. So he shares my love of movies. We're watching Mad Max tonight and it's my final top 10 movie of all time that he hasn't seen. And I can't wait. Neither can he, because we've developed this bond over the movies we watch and him loving the movies that I love, and he legitimately loves them too. He's not just saying it for the saying's sake. But there's a bond that's developed over that. So you find something that you can develop a bond over, even if you don't like doing what that thing is.
I'm really looking forward to the days that I get to do all this with
Yeah,
Freddie.
I know. I've got all my MA movies waiting to watch with my 12-year-old because he's not ready yet. But I will bond over those too. So, yeah.
Awesome, mate. Awesome. Look, we will drop all the information for Arm for Life in the podcast notes on the YouTube channel. We'll get the link for the camps in there as well. And if anybody wants to sponsor a child to come on one of these camps, you will feel very satisfied, especially when you get an email from Adam and he tells you who that person was and the journey that they went through on that camp. It absolutely fills your heart. So, Adam, thank you for everything that you do. Keep up the great work, mate. And
Thanks,
I look forward to working with you, being a board member.
Absolutely. And thank you for your support as well. It
the least I can
honestly makes all the difference knowing there are people like you that are supporting the stuff that we do. Thank you.
It's the least I can do, bro. And I will finish on my quote that I love to finish on. Every winner was once a beginner. Every master was once a disaster.
Love it.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you tune in the same time next week so you can stay up to date with all cash flow positive property updates.